Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Pitchside Perspective podcast. If you're listening to this or if you're watching this, it would be great and helpful if you could go and subscribe to our channel. Give us a like or comment. It means more to us than you can imagine. In today's episode, we're discussing the underdogs. We're looking at the most underrated players of the Premier League era. From your Heskys to your Anelkas, we're going to look at them all and decide who is the most underrated player of the Premier League.
One, two, three, four.
So, Jack, this week we're talking all about the underrated player. What makes an underrated player in your head then?
Well, I don't think it necessarily means someone who everyone thinks is poor but is good. It might be someone that people think is a good player but is actually even better and more influential. So I think for me that having a big influence and impact on games and the team is probably something that doesn't get noticed at times by just kind of someone who's not really focused on that team or focused on that player. They only kind of see the highlights, right? So maybe they don't get the praise that they get from their season ticket holders that see them playing week in, week out, home and away. So probably those players from clubs that people don't see a lot of, but true loyal fans of that club know how important they are to the team.
I feel like this is the ultimate argument when you're in the pub with your mates on a Friday night and you're talking like, nah, that player's well overrated or is well underrated. Do we think there's maybe more players in modern day or back in like the Barclays time that are more underrated or overrated? How do you see the trend going?
Well, yeah, I mean the game's just all opinions anyway, right? So this is just another kind of layer of that where it's just people's opinions. I think, and we're probably guilty of this too, we'd probably look back at previous players, especially from certain phases of life, with a bit of a golden eye and overrate them a little bit, and are more critical to modern players because we're always comparing them to what we've seen before in the past.
Yeah, I think when I think about underrated, I'm thinking about my own title challenge for the Guess Who challenge that we go through every week. I'm certainly the underdog here. I've got a lot of points to claw back. I think yeah, I need to have a successful week this week.
Mm.
Not sure how you fared last week. Obviously, you weren't here last week, and we had Jaume with the Barcelona player. I feel like you would have struggled with that one as well. So I feel like I should have saved that one maybe for a later time.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually both times that I've missed. You probably pulled out ones. The David May one too in the past. I wouldn't have got that until the very end. So you should have saved those ones for me because they were difficult ones for sure. But this one I got for you today, I think you've got a good chance on this one. This is
So hit me with the first clue.
so clue number one. This forward was named in the 2007-8 and 2008-9 PFA Team of the Year.
Forward team of the year. Trying to think who would have won the Premier League because a lot normally these PFA teams, if you win the league, you're getting a good 5 or 6 players in there. I'm 7-0-8. What? Repeat the seasons.
2007-8 and 2008-9, so back-to-back years.
So 7-8 would have been the United year, but 8-9, I don't. Did we win it back to back? I'm going to throw a stab in there. Wayne Rooney.
Okay.
We'll see if I'll end up with 5 pointers. But yeah, give me clue number two.
So clue number two. This player was the Under-16 European Championship Player of the Tournament in 2001 and the U19 European Championship Player of the Tournament in 2002.
Dude, that should have been clue one. That's hard.
Bit of a wonder kid.
So wonder kid. I'm still thinking Wayne Rooney was a wonder kid, but I'm not sure how many
European.
times he really played for England youth.
Mm.
So trying to think who else would have been around that time. You've got maybe like at Chelsea, it would have been Drogba, but I don't think he can't obviously be in there because you spoke about a European Championship. So Liverpool maybe at that time, Arsenal. Liverpool had Torres. Did Liverpool have Torres? I know Spain have always had good youth teams. You know what? I'm going to switch up route. I'm going to go Fernando Torres.
Interesting.
A little bit of a left field.
Mhm.
Should I have Fernando Torres? I
You're
feel
locking
like,
in
yeah, I
or
feel like Spain would have had good time around then. And Wayne Rooney, I think, would have been
time
Wayne
has got to be
Rooney.
going.
All
Time
right,
is
I'm
going.
going Fernando Torres.
Okay,
Fernando
Fernando
Torres, I'm locking it
Torres.
in. We'll see if I've messed this up. I could be shooting myself in the foot here, but Fernando Torres, I'll lock it in. But we'll come back at the end with clue 3, 4, and 5. Um, so yeah, this week it's all about the underrated player. As an underrated player myself, I'm just saying that. I'm gonna pass it over to you, Jack, just to explain how we've built this criteria in this argument.
Yeah, so we're gonna hopefully find at the end of this the most underrated Premier League player, not just currently, could be currently, but also in the past too. So we're going to start with two players that a lot of online forums and people have reached out saying are underrated. I'm going to go through the list in a survival mode. So round by round, one player can continue through the rounds, others getting knocked to the wayside, and the last man standing, will be the most underrated player.
Yeah, I think it could be quite controversial. I mean, as you said earlier, it's a game of opinions. So
Yeah,
if at all we get it wrong, which we probably will do, let us know.
yeah.
Um,
There's
so this,
definitely, there's definitely one or two that we've we've got on this list from people that I'm definitely disagreeing with. So
I mean,
opinions.
even when we tried making this list of 10, we were already disagreeing with each other. So I mean, it's going to be interesting. So first two players, number 9 and number 10, we have Dennis Irwin of Manchester United as one of the most underrated, and more of a modern day Morgan Rogers.
Mm.
Jack, where do we start?
So Dennis Irwin, I think, probably not someone who the younger generations talk about a lot of, because obviously they didn't see him play, but is spoken a lot about. Obviously, was in a lot of successful teams, which helps. There's a lot of kind of pictures with trophies, and he's in the team picture. So I think he does get spoken about, especially by ex-players, quite a lot, I would say.
I think you've got to look at, like, when there's other podcasts out there, they're always talking about, and I think Dennis Owen's biggest fan, Roy Keane, is always saying how wonderful of a
Mm.
player he was to play with. And I think when you talk about like ultimate team of the years, like fullbacks, people tend to go towards like Ashley Cole as the left back. And don't get me wrong, I think Ashley Cole's a fantastic left back, but Dennis Irwin, not only was he good defending at one end of the field, he was also scoring goals at the top and deadly on set pieces. And
Yeah, but
I think sometimes when people score from set pieces, that gets ignored.
that's like me saying, okay, then Ian Hart is as good as Dennis Irwin, because Ian Hart used to score free kicks and play left back.
Another underrated player.
So I think Dennis Irwin is. I think most people would say that Dennis Irwin was in the top 5 or 3 even of Premier League left backs ever. He's not number. Ashley Cole, I think 99% of people will say number 1. So I think he is rated where he should be. I think he is probably in that top 5, top 3 left backs of the Premier League era. Um, and that's where people put him. So I think he's rated as he should be.
So then that brings you on to Morgan Rogers. And I think this is a funny one because I think typically when you think about this category, your mind takes you back to days gone by, right? In like the older generation of players. But like Morgan Rogers, I think there's a lot of ability there, but it's kind of on the fence because I think right now people are seeing him as maybe the left-sided midfield player for England in the World Cup. So now he needs to live up to those expectations.
I
Otherwise,
think
he's going
he's
to be
brilliant.
dropped into the overrated category.
Yeah, I think he's brilliant. I think this season, especially, but even in the past, the way he kind of carried the ball, ran with the ball when he first went to Villa, it was just exciting. I think I spoke about him previously on the podcast. He's like an exciting player to look out for. I think you could argue he has been the best. Not that he is the best, but he's been the best performing player in the Premier League this year. In a league where I don't think any individual has really stood out, I think you could look at him and say he has won matches for Aston Villa and kind of put him on his back a little bit more so than any other player has done for their team.
And do you think he almost goes a little bit behind the shadows? Like people are still like looking at the likes of Phil Foden and people like that because of what Man City have won versus obviously Villa haven't won anything yet. So when you talk about these underrated, does like winning something come into this? Like, is Dennis Irwin, like you said, like he's rated because he's gone on one side, whereas Morgan Rogers hasn't won anything yet, so he can still creep into this
Yeah,
underrated category.
it's winning something, or it's who you play for, right? And Aston Villa obviously on the rise, and if they keep going, then a lot of their players will start getting more recognition. But Morgan Rogers, he has to be in the England team, and it's going to be hard to figure out where to fit him in. But he's far too much of a threat, a goal scoring threat, something different to the players. Brave on the ball, physically obviously brilliant too. So he has to be in the England team. I think he's been the best performing midfielder. And I know people say Declan Rice, but I think Declan Rice is great at his position. But does he have a major impact on matches compared to Rodgers? I think Rodgers has more of an impact. I think Rodgers has been underrated for some time. Kind of crazy that he got let go to Villa. And I'm sure people, seeing that as a mistake now. Yeah, I think it's brilliant. And if Villa continue what they're doing, he can stay there and get the accolades he should get, hopefully. And if not, then I think big clubs will be in for him.
Well, you know who definitely underrates Morgan Rogers? That's Pep Guardiola and Man City, because obviously they let him go. Like,
Yeah.
surely they're biting themselves now that they let him go. Because if Villa go and sell him, you're looking at 75 plus.
Oh, more. It's going to be 100. But I think, in fairness, when he's at Man City, they could have kept him, but he wouldn't be the player he is now because he would have been in that big pile up of players, right?
Yeah.
And also the type of player he is, getting the ball midfield, carrying the ball forwards. Does he fit Man City? I don't know.
So I'm gonna put this one on you. Moving on then, who's the most underrated player? Morgan Rogers, Dennis Irwin.
My vote would be for Morgan Rogers. He's more underrated than Dennis Irwin.
Yeah, I agree. I think he doesn't get maybe as much reputation as maybe a Dennis Irwin does. So we'll go Morgan
Yeah,
Rogers. So
maybe
then
he will by the end of his career. Let's see.
potentially, yeah, we might look back in 10 years and go, yeah, he was actually a really underrated player, or he's a one season wonder and he doesn't
Yeah.
continue it. So then moving on, next in the list, Nicholas Anelka. Where are you with Nicholas Anelka? Because he was a good player, but I think the one thing that not lets him down, but the one thing that maybe puts him into this category is his journeyman career. Like he didn't hold it down
Mm.
for a period of time at a certain club.
Yeah, he was such a good player, wasn't he? I mean, you could pull up his honours list of trophies he's won in part of teams and individually. It's a long list of awards that he's got. And you can say, well, yeah, I think you're right. He's kind of journeyman type of career. Probably makes him a little bit underrated because he doesn't have that one set of fans that are super loyal to him and hold him as like a god figure. At the same time, you could argue, well, he's managed to be an unbelievable player at different places, different clubs, different managers. Did he really do it for his national team? I'm not sure.
Yeah, but like you said, like he was at what five, six different clubs in the Premier League. I'm trying to think now: Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Bolton, Man City, and
Mm.
every one of those clubs, like he almost had a very good spell and then like completely dropped off. And the one goal that really stands to mind is the one for Bolton, where he's on the left hand side and he cuts in and he rifles that
Excellent.
ball into the top corner. I mean, is it one of those that he lacked maybe the charisma, but tactically he was. I think when we talk about underrated, I think it's the tactical side of it because his movement off the ball I
Yeah.
thought was fantastic. But people, when we talk about like elite strikers, he's not in that category. But I think he's pushing into that category because
But should he
I
be?
mean,
Should he be in that
he scored
category?
120 plus goals in the Premier League. That takes some doing.
Yeah, and he's won a lot of trophies.
So this goes back into our argument. Does that trophy winning does that burden this conversation?
I think trophies matter. Yeah, individual and team awards matter for sure.
I mean, he's one of the few players as well that has won titles with multiple teams
Yeah.
in Premier League. So obviously he won it with Arsenal and he's won it with Chelsea. That says a lot. And I mean, like he was part of the Arsenal team, the Invincibles and whatnot of that era, where like that was hard to get into that team. So we got to give him
Yeah,
a little bit of credit there.
it's one thing too. Like, do you think Anelka was ever the best or one of the top two players in any of the teams he played for, except for I guess Bolton would be? Yes.
I'll
Even
tell
then,
you
he
what,
wasn't at his
after our
peak.
conversation the other week about Sam Allardyce Bolton team, he might not even be getting into the top two of that. But I
Yeah,
think you're right. I think every team he was at, he wasn't the main star.
right. That is a tough decision between Rodgers and Anelka. I think it's a little bit easier to talk about Anelka because he's at the end of his career, and then you can look at all the awards he's won. You know, Morgan Rodgers could go score the winner for the Euro in the World Cup final this summer, and then he'd get all the
Because I
praise.
do think, like you said, longevity comes into it a little bit because we're judging Morgan Rodgers off of one season here.
Mm,
1.5, 2. I mean, this is his for me, this is his true breakout season where he's really shining through.
right.
He had a decent season last year, obviously prior to that, Middlesbrough. Whereas, like you said, like Nicholas Anelka done it over a certain span of his career. It's like looking back for me, my argument would be now to bump Rodgers out and have Anelka as the most underrated player so far.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Yeah, we'll go with Anelka.
So then this leads us on to an interesting character. Somebody who wasn't in the Premier League that long, but had a fair enough spell, and that's Moussa Dembele.
Mm.
Thoughts on him?
I would argue for anything overrated.
Really?
I see the attraction to him because of the times when like the one thing he had was that ability to be on the ball and just shrug people off, right? Like he's so powerful whilst also being so good on the ball. But can you think of a game that he won the match for Tottenham or he carried a team?
Not in particular, but that type of position was hard to be known as a game winning position. Like he was a box to box, strong, like ball winning midfield player. When I remember, like when he was playing for that Tottenham team, I wanted United to sign him, and then all of a sudden he ends up going to China. That was around that boom of like players wanting to go play in China.
Mm.
I think and the reason I think he was underrated is he does that role where you're not going to get the plaudits of scoring bangers, scoring goals. He had legs in midfield. He would be the perfect. If I could take him back from when he was playing and put him in a Man United team now, 100% I would sign him because I think he
I don't
had the
think
legs and the power to play at its
I didn't see
true.
him off legs. I think that he's very, very good at that one thing and people focus on that and it covers maybe some of the other spots that where he wouldn't have been able to play for Man United or City or Arsenal. I think I think he was good, but I think he was like a bit of a Tottenham classic player in that modern era of Tottenham players with like a lot of show and then not necessarily the kind of steals to get results. People, a lot of players that played with him do talk about him as being unbelievable. And if you played five-a-side at practice and he was on your team, you kind of knew already that you were going to win. But, that doesn't make you a good Premier League 11v11 player, does it?
Yeah, but
And I think
I
that's
mean,
why I think he's overrated, because I think people bang on about him in training, playing five-a-side and being brilliant. And it's like, well, yeah, he can win that match for you, but I never saw him win a match for Tottenham in the Premier League.
I can't believe the hate on Moussa Dembele. I thought he was a the player that if you like you said there about five-a-side, if you're picking a team, he's the type of person you want in that mid. Like you think he partnered Luka Modric to allow Luka Modric to go on and do what he wants. I think those type of
You
players.
think so? You think he made Luka Modric look good? You don't think Modric made him look good?
I'm not going to argue that, but what I'm saying is he's got Luka Modric next to him to allow to go do whatever he wants, and it's those type of players that don't get the plaudits. Like when you think about, say, obviously I'm a United fan, like Roy Keane and Paul Scholes, those two centre midfielders. Or sorry, let's get rid of Roy Keane. Nicky Butt when he played there with Paul Scholes, Nicky Butt wouldn't get any of the gratitude. It would all be on Paul Scholes. Sometimes that ball winning, like quiet player that's going to give you a 7 out of 10 every game, they go under the radar, and that's where
Nicky
I think
Butt's
Moussa
more
Dembele
underrated
fits
than
in.
Dembele.
Well, Nicky Butt might be creeping into the list later on. So we're at a roadblock here where we've got Nicholas Anelka or Moussa Dembele. I know where you're going.
Yeah, where are you going?
The only reason I would, and I'm going to give Moussa Dembele. If you're listening to this, like I thought you were a good player, Jack didn't, but
I never said he was a good player.
Nicholas Anelka I think creeps ahead of him only because when you think about elite strikers of that era, he's not there, but he's there or thereabouts. But he was a very good player. I think he was just playing in an era where there was some phenomenal strikers, and we've
That's true.
mentioned on previous episodes, right, that these modern days there's a lack of good strikers. It's all about the tens now, the wingers,
Yeah,
whereas our era was all about the strikers. I mean, you're talking at round his time, Drogba's, Rooney, Shearer's, Andy Cole's, Dwight York's, Kevin Phillips, all of these top strikers. And I think that's what makes Nicolas Anelka more underrated than
yeah.
Moussa Dembele.
And also think about some of the centre backs that he had to play against. Some unbelievable centre backs.
How do you think, like a Nicolas Anelka, like obviously
He would, he,
Arsenal?
he would, yeah. I think Anelka would be good today. There's some
That's
people
what I
that
was
you
going
can
to say.
argue, yeah. I think there's some strikers you can look back and go, maybe they wouldn't be who they were in the modern game, but I do think Anelka would be unreal playing for one of the top four clubs today. I think they'd snap him up.
So there's a question for you. Like, so out of these previous clubs, Nicolas Anelka, Arsenal, Chelsea, Bolton, City, Liverpool, who would he suit going into this weekend for a game?
Well, Bolton in League One probably score 5.
But all
I
right,
mean,
so
well, you could argue, I guess, Arsenal, have they really solved their striker problem? Maybe not. And he can do a bit of, he can be that hold up target player. He can be the goal scorer. He can pick the ball up from midfield and run with it. He could do it. I think Anelka was one of those all round strikers, wasn't he? Yeah.
I was going to say, talking about Arsenal, a little bit off topic, but something that winds me up at the moment. Gyökeres, the striker, he isn't really scoring many goals, and it winds me up when he scores and he still does his celebration. I'm like, you're bang average. Stop celebrating like that. Just run to the corner and get on with it. But anyway,
Mm.
that's my rant over. Nicolas Anelka for me trumps Moussa Dembele and moves into that next slot.
Yeah. Anelka goes through.
So this next one is somebody that you added to the list. So I'm interested to see where your thoughts are, and that's Konsa at Villa. What's your
Yeah.
thought? How does he get in here as an underrated player?
Well, we were also trying to think of some modern day players. I think he is, along with the Arsenal centre back defence, obviously, he's the best. He's the one defender that could arguably get into the Arsenal backline. I think he's up there with the best.
So is he
Top,
is he England's starting centre back?
absolutely, yeah. And I actually, um, probably a few years ago, wasn't a huge fan of him. But I think it's probably because I saw him play against teams that I liked, and he's one of those people that I think when he's on your team, you love him, and when you're playing against him, you don't like him, which is probably a good, is normally a good sign of a good player. I just think he's very, very good, and I think people are slowly starting to switch on of how good he is. He's just so hard to beat, um,
Does it go
athletically as
does it
well.
go to that club bias though? Like as we mentioned, that because he's at Villa, and no disrespect to Villa because they're one of the best clubs currently and they've had a great history, but because he's not at an Arsenal, a Man City, a Liverpool, does he then not get the accolades that he should be getting and the respect on his name?
Maybe, but like I say, Villa are doing very well now, so it's not like he's playing for a mid-table club. He's playing in the Champions League, so I just think, and I think for England, I think Tuchel likes him. So I think he's starting to get the recognition. And I think if he has a really good World Cup, he'll start to be seen as one of the best centre backs in the world. I think he's that good. I mean,
Do you know what I do like?
I mean, which club in the Premier League does he not get into that team?
Yeah, no, I think he's spot on. But I think the one thing that I do like about him is you rarely see him flustered. Like you rarely see him like diving in for a tackle. He's very like methodical about how he defends. And I think that cool head is what separates you from a good defender and a great defender.
Yeah. The
Like
one
if
thing I would say that maybe goes against him is how many great centre backs are they right now in the Premier League? Do you think? Probably a
Premier
handful.
League, I mean Harry Maguire's making a comeback, but that's a different story. I mean, you look at the two Arsenal centre backs,
Yeah.
right? I think I hate. I mean, I've said it before, but if we were to do an overrated list, I think Van Dijk gets in there. I mean, he had one or two good seasons at Liverpool, but he looks like he's losing his legs a little bit. Um, Chelsea, I think I do like Trevor Chalobah. I think he's a good centre back, but I think you're right there. I don't think there's many super strong centre backs that you're going, yeah, that is the best
Yeah.
centre back.
Yeah. So maybe that goes against him a little bit. Maybe we're kind of pushing him up there because there's not many others in his way, if you like.
So then that goes back to my argument about Nicolas Anelka, right? Like he had an abundance of strikers ahead of him, so-called top strikers. So does that make it better or worse for Anelka to trump Konta as underrated?
I think we're going with Anelka, aren't we? I think the Consa one's an interesting discussion. I think he's an interesting player. I think I'd be well if Aston Villa finished second or third, then maybe he stays at Villa. But I think it's a similar thing to Morgan Rodgers, where if they were to drop out of the top four, top five, Man United, maybe even a Madrid or someone like that would be after Morgan Rodgers and Conte if they need someone in that position. If you're any club in the world and you're looking at and you're saying we need a centre back, he would be on your list.
No, I agree. No, 100%. I would agree. I don't know how old he is. I'm thinking like mid to late 20s. I don't think he's like really pushing 30 yet. So he's in his prime era as well. But
We'll go
I
now.
promise you that Anelka is not going all the way to the top. Surely there's going to be more underrated players, but we'll see. We in agreement? Anelka trumps Konsa.
Yeah, Anelka more underrated goes through.
So now the next on the list, he is the most informed manager in the Premier League, Michael Carrick. Michael Carrick as a player, I think, could go far in this list as one of the most underrated players of the Premier League era.
Is this because you've got your rose tint glasses on from his wins as manager of Man United?
I'm gonna take them off. When he came to United, and I remember this, I thought, why are we signing Michael Carrick? Like he was at Tottenham. Tottenham were very average at that time. He was quite a skinny, scrawny centre midfielder, and I'm like, you're Paul Scholes. You can't replace Paul Scholes with Michael Carrick. But I think slowly, it didn't happen just overnight, but slowly you saw how composed and how Scholesy like he was. I think just minus the attacking play. I think obviously Scholes banged in goals, but Michael Carrick chipped in with a few. But
Yeah.
Michael Carrick, when did you rarely ever see him lose the ball? And when you talk about like top centre midfielders of the Premier League era, you've got like your Lampards, your Gerrards, and people like that, David Silvers. But again, this goes back to my Moussa Dembele argument that just because you're not banging in the goals or getting the assist, he was the assister to the assister. Do you know what I mean?
So he passed it, you mean? If
Hey,
there's a player in the league now that he was similar to, I don't know what you think about this bit of a big bold statement, but I would go like Rodri. He was similar, maybe not, maybe just that kind of, Rodri has that like Busquets thing
yep.
where when he gets the ball, it's just always one step ahead and he can swivel away from people. Carrick had that, but maybe not to the same degree as a Rodri or a Busquets. His passing was class, controlled games. Probably didn't have those like zinging dinos that Scholes had. And like I said, maybe he could have contributed
There or
more.
thereabouts.
But yeah, he in terms of getting the ball off the back four and just controlling games, he was very good.
I think the proof in
Underrated, I don't know. Yeah,
going back to your Rodri statement, if you add an O at the end of Carrick's name, Carrico, he's talked about completely different. I feel like sometimes these foreign players, these Rodris, and again, very good players, but sometimes we cast out the English players, the British players, because they just seem a little bit more boring. Like you said, Rodri and Carrick very similar, but Rodri gets like
well,
all of the.
Rodri's a better player than Carrick was. I'm just saying they were similar style. I'm
Is
not
he a
saying
better
that they're on the
player?
same level.
I think I'd argue that. I think I'd argue he was a better player.
You could argue. I mean, the argument would be that Carrick's did it for a long period of time.
Well, I think the argument for Carrick
Rodri
is.
was the best player in the world. Carrick was never the best player in the world.
Well, anyway, moving on. Carrick, when he retired, and maybe this was like 2012, 13, maybe a little bit later, we haven't replaced him since. And I think that says a lot about him as a player. And
Yeah.
for me, when we're talking now Carrick versus Anelka, I think Carrick is the person to kick Anelka out of this list just because of the talent he had, and he kind of went under the radar.
No, so Carrick's not going to go through, and I'll tell you why. Because you just compared him and said he was on a similar level to Rodri, which shows that he's not underrated.
If I didn't say that, though, you would have gone Carrick. I know you would.
There'd have been a chance, but you've just shown me that he's not underrated because that's not.
But that could be me having those rose glasses on.
No, it is, yeah.
So
Yeah, no, Carrick was great. Yeah, and I think he's someone who, even Man United fans, if they talk about their top midfielders, he's not getting a mention, is he? And partly because it's Man United and they have so many of these top midfielders, but also partly because of his style. I don't think he caught the eye maybe as much.
And like you said about United players there, if you made the best 11 Man United players of the Premier League era, he might not even be getting into the second string of that team. It might be the
No, he wouldn't.
third string of that team, right?
No, he will. Maybe he's in the C or D team.
So I don't know. All right, so this is what we're going to do for this one. I'm going to take a step back as a Man United fan. I know you're a little bit of a closet Man United fan, but I'll put the decision on you. Anelka or Michael Carrick?
I'm sticking with Anelka.
Jeez, I can't believe I've let you do that. All right, so then Anelka's gone from being like the eighth player that we've had here, like he's going to end up picking up the title.
Maybe.
So next player then on the list, Sammy Hippier. Where do you stand on this one?
Yeah, he's good, and he won trophies, and he did he get the team of the year a few times, I think, as well. PFA team of
Sure.
the year. Yeah, no, he was great. And again, we talked about that period of time where there's a lot of good centre backs playing up against a lot of good strikers. So I would have him as very underrated. Yeah. So if again people talk about Premier League greats, no one talks about him, and yeah, he won. He won Champions League with Liverpool, maybe,
I
as
think
well as
so.
Europa League. Won Team of the Year multiple times. Yeah, he was very underrated.
Sammy Hippier, Virgil van Dijk. Who would you rather have?
At their peak, you'd probably go
Yeah.
Van Dijk. Over a longer period of time, you could probably argue could be, I guess.
But do you
But
think because you're not jumping into that answer straight away, that shows that Sammy Hippier, like, is underrated here? Because like how rated Van Dijk is right now, and you
mm,
talk about Liverpool defenders of days gone by, like Sammy Hippier, I think, like you said, goes under the radar because I think a little bit goes because of like the style of play he was. He wasn't like different to a Van Dijk. He wasn't like a superstar. Like Sammy Hippier of that team, I think because you had the likes of the Michael Owens in that team, the Steven Gerrards in that team, bigger players by name, by association, Sammy Hippier drops down that list. And I think when we talk about underrated players, you can't be known as like a global superstar. You have to go under the radar, right?
yeah, and I think like you mentioned Gerrard there. When people talk about, well, Gerrard almost got the league title for Liverpool and won it, almost making it out like he did it himself. He was surrounded by people like Xabi Alonso and Sammy Huppier and all these people that went and won trophies elsewhere. Fernando Torres went and won elsewhere. Mascherano went and won elsewhere. So yeah, I think when people think about Liverpool defenders, who are the Liverpool defenders from that era, people talk about Jamie Carragher. And for me, Huppier was a much better player than Jamie Carragher. So I would say he's massively underrated.
So so if we were doing an overrated, would Jamie Carragher go in an overrated list? Do you think?
Well, I don't know if people talk about him because of his ability or, he was definitely a great kind of one-man club servant to Liverpool, wasn't he? And he was always dependable and reliable and there when they need. I don't think even Liverpool fans would say like, oh, he was a superstar, but he was like almost kind of like one of their own in a way, and obviously played a lot of games for him.
When I think about Sammy Hippier, I just feel like that he almost had like that shaggy blonde hair, and when he ran it, like the hair would move, but his head would like stay straight. But
Yeah,
I think about he was super tough. Like I remember like watching like the Liverpool United games. He wouldn't let much get past him, and like he was calm, but he was so aggressive in his defending. And
yeah.
I think Liverpool would bite their left hands off. Liverpool fans would bite their hands off to have him in your team these days, right?
He would have been a perfect partner for Van Dijk, wouldn't he? Just kind
Imagine
of
them two as two centre
yeah.
backs today.
Um, and I think also with the national team stuff, right? Would he play Finland? Was it?
Yeah.
So like you never saw him like on the biggest stages, getting through to the quarterfinals of the World Cup, or in terms of international football. But I would put him going through the next round ahead of Anelka.
Any reason really stand out why? Because Anelka's for the last 20 minutes, Anelka's a god for you. So
Well, I think because of, like I said there, in a world of great centre backs at that time, when people pluck names out of that era of being great centre backs, And I'm not saying he was the best centre back, but I'm saying he was definitely top one. He does not get a mention, and I think even Liverpool fans probably don't talk about him as much as they should do in terms of how good he was.
So Anelka out, Sami Hyypiä in. He's taken the mantle as the most underrated player, which moves us on to one of his teammates
Oh,
that is going to maybe argue for this title, and that's Heskey. And when I say Heskey, this is the iconic celebration.
yeah,
So for me, Heskey, this was one that I kind of thought when we came up with this list, I was fighting for. I mean, he was in a team with Michael Owen, who was the superstar wonder kid who would come through, and Robbie Fowler. Like, when you talk about Liverpool greats, them two are going to get mentioned, albeit Michael Owen came to United, so he might be bumped off that list from Liverpool greats. But
definitely.
Heskey, he scored over 100 Premier League goals, big target man. He could move the ball, he could shift the ball. I think he goes in at being underrated because, and I'll tell you why. When you look at strikers, you look at the strikers that are nimble and banging in goals. He was that big target man, but he could do it all. But I think sometimes when you're big and like you're the target player, you almost don't get the accolades that the nimble like speedy strikers get. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just not as attractive on the eye for most people, right? I don't know. I think he was a good player. Was it? Is he slightly underrated? Probably, just because at times he looked a bit awkward, and like you say, he was more of a target man. When I think of Heskey, I think about that 5-1 England win against Germany with him and Owen up front, kind of just shredding Germany to bits. And then I guess, if anything, after that, I think about his time at Leicester, right, with a big white collar on, barging through people, scoring goals. Um, I don't think he goes ahead of Hyypiä though for most underrated for me
See,
personally.
I do it. I think Heskey is so underrated as a striker. Look what he done for England. He was
What did he do
England's
for
main.
England?
He was fighting to be one of England's main number nines. He played so many games in there and was so effective. But because again, he's in
But
a
what
team
you
full of
say, like you talk about, he was so effective for England. Where did England get during that time?
England
What
failed a
was
little bit around that
right?
time.
So he can't have been that good then.
But look, Liverpool didn't do too much.
Yes,
Liverpool didn't.
you're right. Good, thanks.
But like I'm
But when
looking at
Hyypiä was at Liverpool, they were winning Champions Leagues and Europa Leagues.
well, I'm looking at Heskey's accolades.
Oh,
He won the League Cup with Leicester twice. He won the FA Cup with Liverpool. He won the League Cup twice with Liverpool. Charity Shield, UEFA Cup, UEFA Super Cup. He was.
it was great. It was great in the League Cup when they put the B team out.
League Cup was different back then. League Cup isn't what it is now.
Yeah,
For
well, they won the
me,
League Cup 4 times. So is that what you said? Twice with Leicester, twice with Liverpool. What you said?
yeah,
I wonder how many people have won the League Cup 4 times. Nobody wants to.
I feel strongly that Emil Heskey is more underrated than Sami Hyypiä
I can't believe you're saying that.
because you allowed
If you're
Nick
gonna pick a list of Premier League strikers of all time, where is Heskey on that list?
probably in like the 10 to 20 mark.
No, he's not. He's
Yes,
like
he is.
he's closer to 100 than he is to 10.
No, he's definitely not closer to 100.
There's you can think of 10 just Man United strikers that are better than Heskey.
Yeah,
Before
well,
you can get into the other clubs.
this isn't a Man United podcast
You
today.
keep making it into one.
I know. All right, so let me ask you. I'll flip that question back at you.
So we talked about Hyypiä, that Liverpool would bite their hand off to have Hyypiä in their team right now, right? Which team is biting your hand off to get Heskey in their team?
United. So, but let me throw the question back at you. You said Heskey wouldn't get in the top 20. It would be towards 100 best strikers.
Yeah.
You're talking to me now, 100 best centre backs of the Premier League. Where's
Yeah.
Sami Hyypiä in there? Be realistic.
He could be in the top 20, 25.
But yes, no chance.
He could. How many
No,
centre backs have won the Champions League from the Premier League?
I'm talking Premier League, not Champions League.
He's played for a Premier League club. He could be. He's closer. He's higher up the centre back list than Heskey's up on the striker list. He's not even in the top 10 English strikers in the Premier League era.
You know what? I'm going to flip a coin here, and this is how we're going to
I
settle
don't
this.
think he was Finland's best ever player. Probably, I'm guessing. Was it Jari
Heskey's the
Littman?
best.
Was he Jari Littman? Was he Finnish?
Who?
Jari Littman?
Yeah. So are we saying then, Sammy? You're saying then you're not going to allow me to argue against Heskey. You're going Sammy Hupia.
I'm strongly with Hupia being more underrated than Heskey.
All right. Well, because I'm a nice person, right, I'm going to allow you to have Sammy Hupia, but we'll see what the listeners say. See if you got that wrong. I know when I see Brody, for example, he's going to probably have his own opinion, so it'll be interesting. But I'll allow you to have Sammy Hupia in this. And now, second most underrated player according to our listing here, Andy Cole.
Yeah, I mean,
Sammy Hupia, do one. Andy Cole's now coming in here.
I just think when you look at the stats, you're probably going to have to go with Andy Cole. The amount of goals he scored, Newcastle and Man United. He should have played more for England, but again, at a time where there were so many good strikers around. Yeah, very
15
good.
caps for England.
How many?
15. One goal.
And how many of them were off the bench?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he scored some great goals too, like just plucking the ball out of the air. Champions League with Man United, his partnership with York, that goal against Tottenham to basically win the league, where he just plucks out of the air and lobs the keeper. Like, such a good goal in such a critical moment. I'd put Cole through, yeah.
Is there a better striker partnership than York and Cole?
Ever?
Ever?
Oof, good question. Are you going to say
I don't
Owen and
think.
Heskey?
Andy Cole, I think when you're talking about like that underrated, like you think of just about that Man United team, Solskjaer, York, Sheringham, Cole, four strikers that are fighting, and he still managed to get in there. And I think because of how successful Man United were, winning the treble, winning league titles, this and that, he kind of goes under the radar because it was like almost like a team collective. There was no one person in that team
Mm,
that carried the team. Different, I think, to like the 07-08 season of United where you had like the Ronaldo and Rooney carrying the team.
yeah,
I think like that era, because every player played a major part, that almost makes each of those players in respects kind of underrated.
maybe. But I just think also, it's not just at Man United. I think his whole career, I think, is underrated. He's got to be what? Where is he on the goal scoring list? Premier League goal scoring
Surely
list.
he's got to be up there, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
he scored 34 goals in 1 year, I think, when he was at
Well,
Newcastle. Like,
and his big thing too was he never took penalties. So when you're comparing these numbers against the Harry Kane and the Haaland and people like this, you got to remember how many goals. Maybe they're getting 5 goals a season off the penalty spot.
I'm looking up to see who has the most. See where Alan Shearer is. Where do you reckon? Sorry, Andy Cole is.
What's this? Premier League top
Premier
scorers
League
ever,
all-time goal scorers.
top 10, maybe 7 or 8,
Fifth,
5, 5th. Yeah, yeah.
187 goals.
It'll
Like,
be interesting if that list changes when you do non-penalty goals.
yeah, it would be. Yeah,
So I would put Andy Cole through. I think he's underrated. I think he's and again, maybe it's a personality thing too, right? He seems, I mean, I don't never met the guy, but he seemed like pretty quiet.
I've met Andy Cole. He was a lovely guy.
Yeah, but yeah.
I tell you what, though, it's surprising. Like, I don't know if you've ever had this before, but when you see like your heroes or the players on TV, and you're like, yeah, they're pretty big, like they're these big players, and then you go and meet them, and they're even bigger than you imagine. Like when I met Andy Cole, he's like shaking my hand, and my little like claw is being gripped by his hand. He's like massive.
Yeah.
I'm like, sometimes these players like look like giants, but when you see them, they're massive.
Yeah. Well, I think to be a striker back then, you had to be, the differences compared to now is, yeah, you had to be skillful and a finisher and clever with your movement. You also had to be tough, right? Because you're getting thrown around, you're getting booed up in the air. And I think that's why their movement and intelligence around like how to position themselves was so good, because they knew if they'd just get clattered if they let the defender anywhere near them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Andy Cole is
yeah,
coming in.
yeah.
Andy Cole is in it. So then, rounding this list off, the 10th player we put in there, we've gone back to the modern days, and I feel like a lot of people, a lot of listeners are going to be a little bit angry with this one, but I think he's got some rationale behind his name, and that's Bruno Fernandes. I think and I see you laughing already. Bruno Fernandes, I don't think gets as much credit as he deserves, mainly because he's been playing in a very poor Man United team.
Yep.
His body language and attitude at times, I think, overshadows his ability and what he does. But when you look at the underlying stats, he doesn't get talked about enough as one of the greatest, I think, 10 centre mids in Premier League era. Like I think he's better than a David Silva. I think he's better than some of these players, but he doesn't get talked about like that. He doesn't get the respect on his name.
So I think the big stat, and it's been mentioned recently for him, because I think he's leading everything this season in terms of chances created and assists and everything like that, isn't he? And set piece assists too. Is something crazy like 5 out of the last 6 seasons, he's had the most assists on most goal scoring chances created, which to do, you know, season after season after season, 5 times is pretty incredible. I definitely get the kind of theatrics thing. I think that puts a lot of people off. You could argue it's because he's just passionate and really wants to win and wants to kind of drag his team along, maybe, but it does. It's not a great look. I think it comes down to the argument of is it, he is the best player in a pretty average Man United team. Are they not? Is he underrated because they're not winning anything, or actually is he not that good and that's why they're not winning anything?
Uh, I
I think.
think
Well, I mean, he could argue he's won a. What's he won? Europa League and a
I
FA
mean
Cup
he's won more trophies than Odegaard won at Arsenal.
for now. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I think if you were to do an episode about which players haven't won the Premier League that deserve to have won the Premier League, I think his name is in for a shout of that as well. Like what he's given United in terms of the stats and carrying that. Like if you take Bruno Fernandes out the last 5-6 years, we're probably nowhere near where we are. Like,
Yeah.
but there's also that reliance on him that sometimes overshadows the team. But for me, if I look at now Andy Cole, Bruno Fernandes, going back to this like longevity, and I think that's why Anelka has trumped the likes of Konsa and people like that, Moussa Dembele, is because of like that longevity of continuing your talent and your ability, but just going under that radar a little bit. So that's why for me, Andy Cole probably trumps Bruno Fernandes as the most underrated player.
Well, yeah. So I do think that there's always a lot of eyes on Fernandes, isn't there? He's Man United's best player, arguably the biggest club in the world. So he's got a lot of eyes. I do think the stat thing is incredible, though. I think that is one. That is the argument, right? Too, of being like, oh, well, no one thinks he's the best midfielder in the Premier League, and yet on the best player of the year, and
Yeah,
yet his assists are up there again, and it's like 6 different categories. I think he's number 1 in this season, and you kind of have to look at that and go like, all right, well, you
yeah.
can't really argue against those stats, can you?
I mean, I might be making up this word, but if there was an award for the most statitious player, player with the most stats, I don't know if that's a word or not, I
Best
think he
stats.
probably wins it. Like because of the stats across the board, goals, assists, chances created, all of these
Yeah,
new ones.
the other thing I would say about Fernandes too, he never seems to get injured. Seems to be
And I
like
think even when he
a
like
full match,
he
full
got
match
the
every week.
hamstring injury at Christmas, and he should have been out for 6 weeks, and he was back in 2 weeks' time. Like that says
Yeah,
a lot about your character as well.
he hasn't missed many games for sure.
Um,
Again, does he get in every team in the Premier League? Does he get in Arsenal's team this year?
I think so.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Anthony Cole, Bruno Fernandes, most underrated player. Who are you going for?
Andy Cole, and again, it's a little bit easier to go with Cole because you're looking back at his whole career. Maybe when Fernandes is finished, you know what it's like. A lot of times, people retire and then people kind of give the plaudits that maybe were
Yep.
deserved.
I think that was a good list. I think Andy Cole deserves that award, and hopefully, because of this now award, he gets bumped up a little bit. So, to finish off this episode, I'm going to give you a quick 30-second quick fire.
Cool.
This season, so the 25-26 season, I'm going to give you 10 players, one word from you: overrated, underrated. Don't think about
What
it,
about
just
if I
tell
think they're
me.
just fairly rated?
What's that?
What about if I think they're accurately rated? Can I not just say rated?
No, overrated, underrated. All right, I'll give you a third one: overrated, rated, underrated.
Say again?
Overrated, rated, underrated.
Okay.
Okay, ready? Timber at Arsenal.
Rated.
Todibo at West Ham.
Overrated.
Salah.
Oof. Oof.
Come on.
This season, overrated.
Palhinha at Tottenham.
Rated.
Haaland. Oof.
Rated. Scoring.
Verbruggen, the Brighton goalkeeper.
Rated.
Morgan Rogers.
Underrated.
Bruno Fernandes.
Underrated.
Thiago, the Brentford striker.
Underrated.
Ryan Cherky, the City winger.
Rated.
Interesting. There's a few in there that I'm not sure if I fully
You
agree with.
disagree with the most there?
I think this Cherky is a little bit overrated. I think he's just going to be a one-season wonder.
Oh, I mean, you can't make a guess and rate someone on that though, can you?
And Palhinha, I think he's been, although Tottenham have had a poor season, he's been a little bit of their shining shadow. I think he's underrated.
So you're saying he's the best player in a team that are 16th in the league or something?
Yeah, probably. All right, so finishing this off, let me see if Fernando Torres is going to be my winning player here.
Oh yeah. Next clue. This player has won the Europa League twice and the Champions League.
Would Fernando Torres have won the Europa League? I don't think he would have. Oof, you might have stumped me here. So he was in the PFA Team of the Year. I'll stick with Torres. I'm throwing it on that I've got it right on the fourth point, just in case.
Okay.
Give me the next one.
In 2015, he was bought by AC Milan, but loaned straight to his boyhood club, Atletico Madrid, before even making an appearance.
Oh, I think I might be spot on here. I'm pretty sure he went from Atletico Madrid and went back. I'm going to stick with Torres.
Okay. Last clue. Made over 100 appearances for both Liverpool and Chelsea.
I think I've got a 4-pointer here. I think I'm
It's
clawing my way back
Smile.
in.
How excited he is. Yeah, Fernando Torres is the correct answer.
All right, so 1912. I'm clawing my way back. There's time.
So
There's time.
the Europa League, he won with Chelsea and Atletico Madrid.
See, I didn't think Atletico Madrid won the Europa League. I thought they were just had Champions League spell.
2017-18, so when he was young, when he was there first. Yeah.
Mate, I'm buzzing now. I think that's the first 4-pointer I've had of the series.
Oh, there we go.
Underrated. I'm underrated. And on that note, we bid you a farewell.